On the phone with us now, author Robert Haig. The book is 10 Little Police Chiefs, a Detroit police story. Mr. Haig, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. Very good. And yourself?
Not too bad. You know, it's a Tuesday. I think I may have said Monday, but it's Tuesday. Feels like a Monday, but not too bad. Where are you this morning?
I'm in the city of Livonia.
Oh, and home of the Livonia Spree. How's the weather down there?
It's a little drizzly. Still a little bit humid down here.
All right, the book is 10 Little Police Chiefs, a Detroit police story. Can you first give us a quick overview of what the book is about, then we'll kind of get into it?
The book basically broke down being a memoir. When I have 27 years with the Detroit Police Department. I've been retired about a year. And I had just finally gotten fed up with the department in Detroit, born and raised there, and I was going to write a tell-all book. And I sat down and started banging away, and after about 10 pages, I thought to myself, what are you doing? You've had a great career. You've worked with great people, a number of departments, and it turned into a memoir.
Now, you talk about 10 Little Police Chiefs. Is that the number that spans your career?
Actually, when I started writing the book, which was 25 years, I had 10 police chiefs during that time. By the time I retired, there were 13 total. So basically about a new chief every 2 years.
All right, let me just take an angle on it this way, and I'll apply it to both sports and my broadcasting career. I've been in situations where there's been heavy turnover in the management positions, and when you see a program that has not done very well, one of the key aspects is they change head coaches or heavy brass regularly. Would you say that fits what you're talking about here with regards to the Detroit Police Department?
I would say yes, because with each new chief comes their personnel, basically.
Yeah.
So, and their ideas and their thoughts, and that's how the system works there.
What was it? Can you pinpoint something that made you feel like it was time to go and you're just kind of sick of it? I mean, that's a long time to be a cop any way you slice it, no matter where you are. And I got to tell you, I've said on this show many a times, I'm glad I'm not doing that job because I couldn't do it. It's just, it would be too much for me. But what was it, would you say, that just finally said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore?
The working police officers out there, they just want to do the job. I'd still be doing it today. There's no doubt I'd do it till I was 90 if I could. But the system that was in place, I mean, almost everybody you talk to when someone mentions Detroit police, they cringe a little bit. Yeah. I mean, from the beginning with Jerry, when our chief tried to get on the airplane at Metro Airport with a gun, to the last couple of chiefs we had where there was, accusations that they were, there was favoritism because of what they were doing with a female lieutenant and so on and so forth. And that made the news. And at some point, if you go into work every day, even a radio broadcaster, and you want to do the very best job, and someone's sitting next to you not doing that, well, when the rules don't apply to everybody, it causes a horrible situation.
Right.
So, and, coming into work every day, it just got to where you couldn't, I personally, I couldn't take it anymore. If you try to fix it and they won't allow you to fix it, 27 years was enough.
Right. And you have seen in those 27 years, you've seen the population of Metro Detroit just nosedive almost.
Well, I'll give you an example. I was born and raised southwest side of Detroit. My family's from Detroit. My grandparents owned a meat market in Delray for 35 years. The neighborhood I grew up in is now burnt to the ground. The houses, they're all gone. The crime rate is ridiculous. A lot of people don't know this fact, but there are about 1,200 people shot in the city of Detroit every year. That's more casualties than we're having overseas. When you have a 5 or 6 year old child shot in their bed sleeping, that is an issue. And when the citizens of the city or the political end of it decide that is an issue, then we'll get a safer city. Until then, growing up in Detroit, it was always, hey, they didn't pick up the trash. If you called the police, they didn't show. It just you became complacent with that. And that's where Detroit is now. And obviously, from the political end, everybody's followed that.
Right.
That story as it's gone. And now I retired with 27 years on, and I'm trying to hold on to my pension. So, it just seems typical of Detroit.
The book is 10 Little Police Chiefs. It's a Detroit police story. Robert Haig is on the phone with us. We've talked on this show a great deal over the last few years about how Detroit, as a whole, the city, cannot seem to get out of its own way. Bad PR story after bad PR story. And that does not make people want to stay nor come there. And so you get into this situation where it's a circular thing where everything feeds on top of everything else. Yeah, a lower population base means fewer taxes, can't afford to keep as many police officers on the force, firefighters, and what have you. And then it just continues to spin out of control. First of all, do you agree with what I just said?
Yes.
Okay. What is the answer?
And to give you a little background on me, I'm a policeman, but I come from a family of firefighters, so I'm on both sides there. So my dad's a retired fire captain, and my brother is currently a captain with the Detroit Fire Department. So, I mean, when you put those people in place, firefighters and police officers, your public safety people, and pay them nothing and give them the very worst equipment, isn't that the first thing you need in community safety?
Yeah.
Where if you call the police, they're going to show, or your house will not burn down. And that's a problem. And especially with this bankruptcy in the city of Detroit, what type of people are you going to be able to hire?
I want to just jump subjects just a little bit because I think this is interesting with what has happened in Ferguson, Missouri. And one of the big stories to come out of that, other than the obvious one, is that people were criticizing the Ferguson police because they were showing up with too much gear. They said, no, you're treating this like it's a war-torn area. And my thing is, well, don't we want to outfit our police officers with enough so they don't die? I didn't get the argument that they were showing up on the job with too much firepower.
It's intimidating, is the bottom line. And everybody is okay with that. What a lot of people fail to realize with a police officer, you put on a bulletproof vest every day. That's not an apron. It's not a bow tie. It's not the uniform of choice to work on someone's car. It's a bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
When you walk out the door, you can be killed. Now you put them in a potential riot situation. I have no problem with the way they're geared up. That is the way the community looks at it and the overall people. I mean, to sum it up for you, active or retired police officers are all now that officer in Ferguson simply because we wear a uniform.
Right.
So I have no problem with those officers geared up that way for their own safety. If they have to have it.
Thought it was.
And if you want to look at that, we're going to eventually, my personal opinion, we will eventually get to that. That is how your police officer is going to look all the time. You see it a little bit now where they're allowing, that bulletproof vest outside your uniform, and you're no longer having that, lying down the pants, wool pants, matching shirt, silvery badge. It's changing to a more tactical look. Especially in the city of Detroit, you're going to tear that uniform up anyway.
Yeah.
So,
right.
It's tough.
I thought it was interesting that argument came up because during the L.A. riots after the Rodney King situation, the criticism against Daryl Gates was that he was too aloof and didn't respond quick enough. So you either don't respond quick enough or you respond too quickly and too heavily. My point is you're putting people out there in harm's way. Let's get them geared up so they don't die. Now, I'm not saying that I'm giving the police carte blanche to go out there and just start kicking tail and taking names, but at the same time, you got people out there who are willing to take shots, and especially when you get into a mob mentality, regardless of who the mob is, you kind of get that mob mentality and everyone starts to think the rules don't apply. So I would rather have you guys covered up and not hurt. Let's start there. People would disagree with me.
And I agree in those situations. I mean, you're in you go into a neighborhood where an incident took place and you're going into a volatile environment. If you walk up with a fly swatter, you're going to get a lot different reaction than if you pull up in a tank.
Right.
It is going to either get those people wound up or it may calm them down, but you never know. You have to be prepared because in a second, in police work, any type of law enforcement, in a second or a split second, everything can change in a minute. If you're not prepared, you're going to have a bigger issue.
Can you spotlight for me something that you look back on your career with the Detroit Police Department as something that was positive?
The officers. There were, there's all kinds of police officers. You've got to remember this, especially in a larger department like the city of Detroit. If you look around the radio station now and see 5 people, they could all be police officers. They hear the job. It has great benefits. It has a great pension system. You all go down, apply, and get hired. They're just people. There is no special police. Obviously, you go through an academy and get trained, but the job that's going to be required of you is once you step out the doors are everything from, a psychiatrist, psychologist, referee, domestic violence expert, child abuse expert, medical expert, race car driver, all of that. And these are just normal people under those uniforms. Yeah. So, they all fall into certain categories as far as policing, especially in the city of Detroit. Those ones that are out there doing it dedicated are why you stay. The camaraderie, that brotherhood or sisterhood that you develop with those officers. It's something you can't get anywhere else. Plus, something different every day, brother. It's not like going to an office. I mean, if you're servicing 8 to 15 police runs a day, you're going to be going all day. And like I said, I loved it. I was fortunate. I fell into that, and that camaraderie and those working officers out there, and that brotherhood that you develop. That's why I was there. That's why I stayed.
Based on your experience and what you've seen and your expertise, what does the city of Detroit need to do from a law enforcement perspective to start to turn things around?
Well, you have to, number one is you have to hire the very best. I don't know if they're going to have that opportunity with the wages and what they're presenting now. I didn't hire on because when I was 6, I wanted to be a police officer. I hired on at the time for one of the very best wages, the best pension program, and the best medical coverage. Fortunately for me, it developed into a career, which I loved. So number one, you've got to hire the very best. You cannot lower your standards. And like I said, I shudder to think, they're going to be making security guard wages. So, yeah. I don't know what type of product you're going to put on the street. Number two, you have to equip them. Unfortunately, in the city of Detroit, with their money issues, I don't know if that's going to happen. And one of the biggest priorities is you need a police officer running the police department. Bottom line, they have to understand what police work's about. Without it, you can go on the news as a chief of police and walk around with all kinds of ribbons, and you can be the best talker, and you can talk about all these programs and all these special operations you're running to go into a neighborhood to clean it up, and they take the cameras and the SWAT teams and all that. The bottom line is ask that chief the question the next day, how many of those people you arrested are in jail 2 days later? There's a difference about going to jail and going to prison.
Right.
So without, the proper policing on the street and the proper investigation, which is huge, you're not... You're going to move the people. That's all you're going to do. You're going to move the bad guys, and when you leave, the bad guys are going to come back.
Let me ask you quickly, and I know we're running out of time, but I seem to favor the idea of the broken windows policy, where if you start hammering the little things and fixing the little things, that the rest will follow. How familiar are you with that? And maybe I'm misrepresenting it a little bit, but do you agree with that or not?
I agree. Especially with the police department, you got to start from the bottom and go all the way to the top. And when you fix those little things, you bring that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that sisterhood, where, if I do my job, this is going to work. I don't have to be in the car with someone who doesn't want to work. All of that. Fix your problems. The promotional system. Feasibly, you can, I'm sure I can give you the criteria to take the lieutenant's test in the Detroit Police Department, you'd pass it. you're giving the information for it, but without the policing background, you don't learn that job in a book. It doesn't come in a book. You can learn how cold the refrigerator has to be in the prisoner lockup, but to do the job, you better have rolled in a police car for a while. I mean, there's no way a police officer in Petoskey, and not downgrading any law enforcement officer, can compare to the city of Detroit. The knowledge you gain there in 2 weeks would be a career somewhere else.
Right.
And you need that background to be able to command police officers. Without, there's disrespect. There's, I don't have to listen to him or her, that type of thing. So we've had that ongoing problem since I've been on. So, you fix it, and hopefully it goes from the bottom all the way to the top.
The book is 10 Little Police Chiefs, a Detroit police story. The author is Robert Haig. I appreciate your time this morning. Where can people find out more about you?
You can go on to Amazon. My bio and my author's page is there. They can click on for upcoming events. They'll tell you a little bit about myself. Like I say, it's also available on Kindle, Nook Press, Horizon Books in Petoskey, a number of bookstores in the metro area. But, you can go on there and click and find out a little bit about my background, and it'll tell you a little bit about the book.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Great to speak with you. I'm glad you could spend some time with us this morning.
I appreciate it.
All right, folks, we're going to go to break and then come back and wrap it up for a Tuesday.